Welcome to Monarchist Minute Royalist news and discussion out of the good old US of A. I am Charles York. Joining me tonight is Krieger, Kaiser Bob, and our Vice Chancellor Victor Smith. It is William Stout's week off this week. Even though there's only 4 of us, so that's kind of sad. But anyways,
Translator will be joining us later. He is going to be running late.
yeah, I completely forgot about that. Okay, so we have a wide and
Yeah.
varying range of topics for you tonight, ranging from the decline of art of the visual variety and the January 6 tapes, and that's about it. Yeah, sorry. But anyways, wow, only 1 minute in, and we have already gone through 2. But anyways, 3 now. Woo, let's keep this party going. Okay, but let's get this party going in earnest by talking about the decline of art in the visual space. And as someone who works next to the local art museum, I'm amply qualified to talk about well, technically I work next to the local musical site, but it's across the street, the art thing, so whatever. Anyways, uh yeah, so the decline of art in our society. What say yous? I said that like a mobster. What say yous? Okay.
Yeah, so I think that there's not really much of a decline in visual art, as it were, as much as there is more of a push to show other types of art, and art made by people who were at some points misrepresented in
I disagree.
European. Really? Okay.
I think art has degraded to the point where even a toddler makes better art. Like, if you look at some like modern art, like the piece like I am not a good artist, I am quite trash. Yet I look at some of the stuff I draw and think, wow, I am an actually pretty good artist compared to some of these things.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could talk about films specifically at some point, but I do think that the focus on abstractions, abstract art, uh, is just I don't know. I mean, the fact remains is that as a society, we're trying to it represents a sort of weird dualism in our society because on the one hand, we're all about the material and what can be measured and observed, right? That's what we do. But then it gets to art, and all we're talking about is all these abstract shapes that don't mean anything or are just tax scams. I mean, it's sort of this weird, you know, two-face of society. Um, and I know it's dumb, but I can't quite explain why. I know functionally the fact remains is that we should be, because I mean, art's supposed to imitate life. You know what I mean? Like, I guess that's why the fact that we make art to capture things. We could talk about. I think literature should probably be its own separate discussion for another week, in aesthetics month. But but when you look at any but pictures paintings made hundreds of years ago have so much more depth and meaning than things made by our contemporaries, and that's kind of sad when you consider that, the guy who painted the Mona Lisa didn't speak English. and he
What
and if
does speaking English have to do with
no,
it?
I mean my point being
We
that the
have a
guy who wrote it
problem
was
with
not.
English people?
Yeah, no, I mean, we English people have no feelings. No, the guy who, the guy who, I mean, all these, medieval works of art and ancient works of art, for that matter, were made by people who are very culturally different from us. Um, that the people that who are supposedly our contemporaries um don't they're making things that I can't get any meaning out of. It's like, ooh, pretty colors. You know, I mean, it's
And I think some people would respond with, oh, the Mona Lisa? That's just some woman. Let's move on.
yeah, but you can actually delve into the meaning of the Mona Lisa, shapes, whereas art splatter by flicking your wrist in weird and wacky ways onto a $100 canvas that's doesn't really have much meaning other than maybe you picked out the colors, and at that point it
Yeah,
just becomes the most basic guessing game of, oh, means that he was upset at the time when he flicked his wrist and got it out of joint like he was playing Wii tennis. Oh, so deep, so intellectual. Oh, oh, I'll
literally.
take $100,000 for it. Yes.
Yeah, no, like it's really funny. Like it's like I saw this very funny meme that is very true about like the state of modern art. That like a guy left his like glasses on the floor in a museum one day, and like people were like, yes, this must be some exhibit about I don't know, smart people. There's like a crowd taking like pictures of this guy's glasses on the floor.
It's it's just it's completely stupid. I mean, it has to, I mean, I guess to talk about, and then there's when it gets to media more general, like the other visual arts, because movies are a kind of visual art. And I don't know, do we want to say storytelling for another week? Like books and stories in
Yeah,
general,
I mean, we
or do we
have
want
Yeah,
to talk about it now?
a list of topics tonight, so if you get, it's all up to you, Charles.
like
You're the host.
I mean, at this rate, we're going to have a 14-minute show because we only have two topics. So,
Yeah, we only have two, so we might as well can add one, unless you don't want to.
yeah, we'll talk about movies. I think we'll say books for another time. But
Yeah,
movies, because here's the thing, like books and because a painting can convey a story, but a movie is more is I guess better suited to conveying a story because it's not just a still image. Um,
Yes, and movies are motion pictures, so they fall under the sort of penumbra of visual art in a way that books do not.
yeah. Um, so it's but the thing with movies is the stories that they're telling us, the morals they're telling us, are by and large absolutely terrible these days. And this is the thing, okay? And I've been kind of off my game tonight, but this is where if I'm going to shine at any point in this podcast is going to be now. What we show to people, especially children, matters. The lessons that you get matter, okay? Children and people will see how characters act on screen, and they may imitate it. I mean, there was a when little Chuck was 4 years old or whatever, watching an episode of Thomas the Tank Engine where a trainload of eggs was smashed up. I took the eggs and started dropping them down the laundry chute. I don't ask me why. uh, I don't know myself. But the point being is that people will imitate what they see on screen. Another instance I can remember is watching an episode of Scooby Dooby Doo. Where Shaggy, who
copyright.
hey, I used less than 6 seconds of it or whatever the stupid rule is, but but uh, but I used but Shaggy, who's being a total coward, is like, ladies first when Velma, who for some reason got paired up with Shaggy and Scooby that episode, he lets her go into the witch
Irrelevant,
house.
what's the point?
Okay, the point being that I imitated that not because of the coward thing, but oh, you're supposed to let women enter a building first. Of course, you're supposed to only let women enter first if there's no present sign of danger, in which case you're supposed to go first. But yeah, that's the thing. People will imitate what they see on screen, and the lessons that are being taught about this is that are being taught to this generation is absolutely ridiculous. This whole saying that it's okay to essentially be a whiny emotional child, that the women are always right and the men are always wrong. Because I mean, think about this was pointed out to me recently. Okay, you have Rey from The Force Awakens. She already started off stronger than Kylo Ren, so she beat him in the first movie. How is
Right.
Kylo Ren a threat from that point on? Like, I, I, like the only time that you could have a female protagonist who is better. I mean, who is presented with a problem with a female villain, uh, who is challenged by a female villain, who is challenged by a villain, is that the villain is also a female. Because I guess the modern rules of Hollywood are women are always going to be portrayed as better than men, and that's kind of. I mean, you're trying to make up for what happened in the past, but the past was unbalanced, and let's just say, for the sake of argument, that it was completely, dumb. That doesn't mean that the present should be unbalanced, because that doesn't because you're effectively doing the exact same harm that the previous generation was doing, just in reverse. So that I mean, it's not like if you had it your way, you could still get a copy of 80s Macho Man or whatever. I mean, you could, but that's only if you paid money for it. But it's just the lessons. But I will say, surprisingly enough, Star Wars The Bad Batch, of all things, has actually kind of produced a good story. And this is a spoiler for what at
Do
this.
not spoil it. I have yet
Oh,
to
you haven't
watch
I
it.
have
seen it?
not watched it. Do
No.
not spoil it.
Okay, okay, I won't spoil it. But I will say, season 2, episode 12, I think actually is a good example of character development and a character finally whatever. Well, I can't say too much because then you'll be able to infer it. Okay.
And
I'll
I
let someone
think,
else talk now because I'm just waffling.
yeah, so movies and TV shows, in terms of the visual aspect of it, I'm not talking about anything to do with the acting or the scripting or anything like that. Visually speaking, they look more realistic now than they did 40, 50, 60 years ago. With that being said, there are certain things that cause issue, and that is, we have talked about this ad nauseum. If you're going to make a historical movie, be true to the actual history. Don't try to cast for the sake of diversity alone when it is unrealistic for the time period.
I
And
think
if you, and I think that, oh, and the other point I wanted to bring up that is a little bit less related, movies typically in TV shows are put behind streaming services. So you do not if you go to Amazon or Netflix or Disney Plus or Hulu or wherever you get your entertainment, you do not actually buy the movie. You buy the digital license of that movie. You do not buy the actual movie, you buy the digital license to that movie, and whatever censoring the streaming service wants to do.
Yeah. You know,
I mean, to think, the whole movie, like this whole streaming service, like CD thing, is just like its own completely separate debate to like the decline of art. But that is a
yeah,
topic for another day.
yeah,
Uh, I think in general, not just applying only to like movies based on real events. That, just diversity for diversity's sake is a problem that's just beyond just historical movies, in my opinion.
yeah.
All right, would you like to expand on that, Krieger?
Because like I think that just like shoving. Okay, I'm gonna use going back to Star Wars. Episode 9. I hope you've all seen it. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. So at like I know the ending, whatever. I don't remember exactly. I think it's by the end of the movie. Yeah, no, it is the end of the movie when they're like all like celebrating and stuff, which is kind of like a cheap ripoff of Episode 6 Celebration, whatever. There's like the very infamous lesbian kiss scene, whatever, just like that serves literally no purpose. There was literally no reference to it at all in the movie. It wasn't. It was just there for diversity's sake because saying, yeah, gay people in Star Wars exist. Woo.
And even then, it's
Honestly,
like in the background. They don't have to put it up front.
I honestly, Episode 9 was so forgettable, and I think it's the only Star Wars movie I've only watched once. I mean, I still haven't seen Episode 3 all the way through, but it's and yeah, I completely forgot that happened, but I think I was angry at the time. I mean, the whole diversity angle, it's it really should just be there is no justification for diversity for the sake of diversity. If you want to tell a story about insert minority group here, then do that. Don't force it in, especially if it's an existing work, you know? I mean, if you're remaking was it Ghostbusters, don't just have it be an all-female cast because, the last cast was all dudes. Well, not the cast, the crew. It just if you want to tell a story about four women who do a bunch of cool stuff and beat up a bunch of ghosts, make your own thing. I mean, there's nothing saying that you can't make your own story. I mean, granted, what you wrote probably wouldn't get past my censorship regime, but you could try. I mean, look. I mean, I said it before. Okay, with the exception of the racial stuff, the Hayes Code was actually fine and like the idea of a set of censorship in Hollywood for what could and could not be published was actually fine in theory. Um, I mean, the whole you can't show excessive gore and you can't glorify violence. You can't have, objectively bad people be portrayed as the good guys. Not. I mean, obviously there was an exception for bad people who were struggling with the concept of good and evil, but I'm just saying there are certain things that I wouldn't allow on screen that modern Hollywood seems to like to allow on screen. Check
Wait,
my Catholic flair for more
Yeah.
details. But
you're telling me that I can't have a 15-minute action scene of just everything exploding just because I wanted to add it there?
oh no
What
no,
is this?
No,
Little
no, no.
1984?
No.
I think yeah, I mean, look, I have nothing wrong with explosions so long as I mean, firstly, what growing boy doesn't just want to blow something up? But secondly, I mean, if you had TNT right now, and you had permission, you're telling me you wouldn't go to an abandoned house in your neighborhood and go kaboomba? I'm just saying. But uh, kaboomba. But I mean, the thing is that there are certain things that I wouldn't allow, and that goes, and some of those things go against the whole pro diversity thing that we're experiencing as a society. Like, I
And
wouldn't.
what and would you like to expand on what you wouldn't allow,
Yeah, I
Charles?
was just about to do that.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I mean, I wouldn't allow movies about same-sex relationships. I wouldn't allow movies about um like, what was that movie recently that recently, the last couple of years, where this girl gets pregnant by her boyfriend, and then her boyfriend does the objectively best thing he could do in that situation and propose to her, and then she like sells the engagement ring to go on a road trip to get an abortion. I can't remember.
I
Oh,
know what
the
movie you're talking
I
about.
know
I
what
don't
you're
remember
talking
its name.
about, but I blocked the name in my memory, so I can't think of it off the top of my head. But yeah, it
She
was a
was
Hulu movie, and
oh,
it
was
was
it?
It
awful. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. I thought it
I
was a theatrical release movie.
No, it was Hulu, Hulu original.
that somehow makes it worse.
I
Yeah, yeah, it
Honestly,
does.
I hate Hulu with a burning passion greater than that of a thousand suns. I mean,
Yeah, throw in the
is there does
trash
Turner
with
Classic Movies
Netflix.
have a streaming site?
What?
Is there Turner Classic Movies? Like, it's basically a bunch of classic movies. Is there a Turner Classic Movie streaming site that I can go on?
Uh,
I
I
I mean,
I can't say for sure.
ugh. Okay,
Let's
so
see. There is not a specific Turner Classic Movies streaming service.
dang it. Okay, but my train of thought derailed. No, so I wouldn't allow.
Oh, there is an app. There is a TCM app, but you have to have a cable subscription.
Oh, I mean, you have to sign in with your TV provider. Okay, well, I have Dish, so
Yeah,
jokes on you, fellow almost 20 somethings. I still have satellite TV because I still live at home. but no, but you know
The
the
satellite TV craze was like 10 years ago. Wow.
yeah. Well, I mean, my mother will not get rid of TV until she can watch a Lifetime movie somewhere else. She if so, I don't know what's going to happen. She's going to find a place to watch Lifetime movies somewhere else, or she's going to, or Dish is going to die as a service. But no, I wouldn't allow things, degenerate things. Okay, it's especially even
Oh,
portraying them in a
oh,
negative.
there is a streaming cable whatever thing that includes Lifetime.
Yeah, but she effectively, that would just be Dish with extra steps for her.
yeah.
See,
Diet
it
dish.
with extra steps.
Yeah.
But oh, I just realized it's called Dish because you have a satellite dish.
Whoa.
Okay, okay,
Oh,
Charles.
there is such a thing as the Lifetime Movie Club, which is their own streaming service.
Okay, okay, Vic. But
I think we're getting off track.
Okay,
I
yeah,
don't
we're
even know
getting
okay.
what
off
So
lifetime
topic,
is.
and
I
I
mean, hey,
didn't
look.
get
I mean,
my two
this is good
cents in.
information to know. But no, I mean, really though, I wouldn't have stuff, degenerate stuff on there, even if it's portraying it in a bad Bing. You use Bing as your search engine?
Yeah.
Wow, the silence from that after that accusation.
Uh, let's get
Okay,
back to
okay. So after we have shown Vic to be a traitor to the Google Master, anyways, uh, no. So no, I mean, I wouldn't even have topics like that even brought up for discussion in movies, because there is a certain point where talking about a problem just increases the problem. It's like, how you have a celebrity commit suicide, then suddenly there's a spike in the suicide rates, because there's a bunch of mentally ill people who will do that, and that's unfortunate. And we should pray for people like that, but that doesn't happen again. But so yeah, so any sort of topic that I would label as degenerate or as potentially harmful shouldn't even be portrayed, even if it's in a completely negative light. I mean, out of sight, out of mind, because a mass media like movies is not really the place to discuss that. And actually, the Hayes Code. Oh, hi, Trad. And actually, the Hayes Code did talk about something like this, where the Hayes Code basically said, okay, yeah, you're basically not going to prevent kids from sneaking into a movie theater. So there are certain topics that should be completely off the table when it comes to movies. Um, and like I say, don't necessarily agree with the Hayes Code and everything, but 95% of what the Hayes Code did was actually kind of base. Not gonna lie, it's just the other 5% that was kind of, eh. But hi Trad. Do you want to unmute yourself and contribute to the
Howdy.
conversation?
Yes, apologies that I'm late. I had some things I had to do, but it's glad to be on. I'm glad to be on. What are we talking about right about now? Because I just hopped on.
The decline of art in movies and in general.
Yeah, so I was talking about how the Hayes Code is cool.
I have quite a bit to say about that in a moment.
Okay, I'll let you.
Let me very quick. I'm going to mute.
Oh, he's
All
gonna
right.
mute.
So while he's muted, okay. Well, this is a reminder to everyone on YouTube that we record this live. So we will have these kind of slip ups like this. So just as a sort of a roadmap for what is to come, uh, at some point, hopefully the next few weeks, we'll be able to talk about the decline of art in the music industry. Hopefully, I will have an interview with a guy called Sam Spade, a musician and composer. Hopefully, that will happen in the next few weeks. Also, we are coming up on April the 16th. I believe we will have another Culloden specials that right, Charles?
Yes, the 16th is
It's a
a
Sunday.
Sunday. Okay, so they'll probably be recorded at the same time. What we did last year was record that on that Friday, and then it will be scheduled to go live on Sunday because no work on Sunday. So yeah, that will be that. And then Good Friday, we're not going to do a recording. So because Good Friday. We're going to be talking about Easter, essentially the Friday of Easter, Easter Friday, because Easter's an octave. So technically, yeah. Because we don't want to talk about Easter before Lent's over, because so that just explaining the whole time gap thingamajigger. So
Oh yes, and
yes.
yes, and we will do, because Easter and Culloden sort of line up yet again, like what happened last year. We're going to be doing the same thing as last year, recording the Easter special and the Culloden special on the same night. Now, Trav,
Yes,
go
I am
ahead
back.
and make your points.
So I'm not sure if Chuck has already gotten to this point, but I'm sure if he had thought about it, he would have definitely gotten to it. And that being, and I think I made this point last time, but I think it tracks here as well, is that you often see that a rise and fall in how popular and how, I mean, just honestly quality art is throughout time based on how active the church is. Like in times when there was repression, art wasn't as, beautiful or well made. And then in times like the Renaissance, where the church was powerful and sponsoring all these artists to make beautiful works, I mean, well, it was absolutely amazing. I mean, if you look, I mean, the Renaissance is the best example of this, but just Michelangelo, Leonardo, you have, I'm trying to remember There's one guy, I can't remember his name currently, but he's known Caravaggio, the master of light. His paintings are exquisite. And the common theme among these artists is that number one, they are sponsored by the church usually. And secondly, that they are often biblical depictions, right? The Last Supper, the Revelation of Christ, like all these beautiful works are very biblical and church based. And then as you see the fall of just general Christianity and I mean, not just Christianity, but all religion as it begins to slowly fall going into the modern day, art gets worse and worse. And then when you have nations that secularize, the art just becomes so bland to the point where modern art is indistinguishable from literal garbage. And it, I think that there's a certain beauty in religion that will make itself known in the art of the people who practice it, which is why I'm such a big supporter of art, because people think that some people in my life think I'm anti-art. I'm anti-modern art. I think modern art is uninspired. It carries nothing in the weight of morality or beauty or any distinguishing characteristics of, a higher power. Like when a godly inspired piece of art is made, you can see it. I highly recommend to all of our listeners that you look up Caravaggio. His art is amazing and it is divinely inspired and some of the most beautiful stuff I've ever seen. But it's one of the reasons that I attest that religion is so important is because everything becomes degraded and loses, for lack of a better term, its soul when there isn't religion or isn't godliness within it.
And if you look at, like, as the point I was making at the top of the show, art museum exhibits, at least most of them, and in modern art museums, especially in in the inner cities, they will feature art that comes from either local. They will probably either want to feature local artists or art that typifies the culture of either the so-called underrepresented people from locally, or the shout or the what am I looking for here?
I can't. I'm not quite sure, but I mean that you bring up an interesting point of like wokeism or wokery. Like one of the greatest examples that I'm sure our chaplain would be dying for me to mention is that that awful statue in New York that
Yeah.
was erected that was basically a demon. Like it's so obvious, and I think a lot of modern art is it's often something that people use as like a straw man, but I think certain modern art pieces are like genuinely satanic in nature, and I think that that's a great example of it
Yeah.
because it's just horrible.
If I could make my point, because I've been sitting here going, yeah, 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 and then for the rest, I was just silent. So I like to get my 2 cents in before someone
Go
else
ahead.
makes their point. So yeah, biggest problem with modern art, both in paintings and sculptures, as well as movies, is it has become godless. It's secularized. They took the fundamental values and morality that you would normally see in these old movies, in these old paintings and statues, and just tossed them aside, and you see what a secularized society brings forth. You have that awful demonic statue in the middle of New York to uh, honor abortion, you have mo- a mo- a Netflix movie where they sexualize children. You you have these godless celebrities and producers who take a beloved franchise and just utterly just ruin it. They they chose these specific franchises. They took Star Wars, they took The Lord of the Rings, they're going to do it with the Chronicles of Narnia, and they're going to mess with it with wokeism because they hate that it's successful, that it's good, and they want money. They want to project their ideas to the grander world because if they make it original, like an original product, it's going to fail. It's not going to be good. They figured might as well corrupt these popular franchises, these popular series, because we know there's fans out there and they're going to come see a beloved franchise that hasn't had new movies for several decades now, and it, it's it's awful. It's awful, and
And
you uh, occasionally you have these good hidden gems, but not as of recently. Like last year, what really kind of what really kind of bugged me was when they, because my taste in movies are like historical movies, and they released Woman King, which is about the uh, female warriors of the kingdom of Dahomey.
Dahomey.
Yeah. And for our listeners here in Discord and on YouTube, of Dahomey was a major slave importer. We
Exporter.
exporter, yes, exporter, and they were brutal with their methods. Um, and they only stopped because the French, the Europeans, stepped in to put an end to the slave trade and utterly annihilated the female regiment. I think the battle that they fought in, the French only lost 6 men, and the Dahomey army lost like 6,000 or something around that numbers. But this movie wants to tell the truth. It wants to stick to the narrative that white people are bad, black people are good, the chosen people, and it's ridiculous to say the least. And I'm glad it's failing. I'm glad these new woke films and TV series are failing because the more they fail, the more we're sending the message to Hollywood and any other uh, woke, godless uh, elitists that no, we don't want it anymore. Yeah.
Well,
well,
actually, I
I don't think that Hollywood is going to be accepting the message, as I believe we covered when this quote came out. The woman that stars in The Woman King said, "If you don't like my movie, you're racist."
oh, play the race card. Okay, okay, okay. The whole race card as an inoculation from criticism thing has, I think, kind of been diluted because at this point, yeah, the people who are going to support it support movie because movie supports the current thing, and everyone who just is sick and tired of the movie. Like, I think everyone's been inoculated from oh, you're a racist because you don't like movie with diverse cast argument. I mean it's I mean, is there anyone at this point who is really, besides people who are actually in Hollywood itself, who are afraid to say, "Yeah, this movie's stupid"? I mean, it's completely dumb. But I do think that we need to stop reacting to Hollywood. And I had thought of this, and then it dropped out of my head, but it's back now. We, as conservatives, okay, we're kind of focused on, well, this, changing the government, and and moral laws, and making it so you can't kill, babies, and marriage actually means what marriage means. But and that's great, and we should be doing that. But we also need to consider the ramifications of actual art as tools, and because here's the thing, we people will always want to be entertained by stories, and there comes a time in the course of a day where you've worked an 8-hour shift and you've done some housework besides, and you've done everything you need to religiously, except say your evening prayers before you turn in for bed. And that that's where stories and other forms of relaxation come in, and we need to have good stories that have moral messages in them, especially for children, but for everybody. And we need to start writing that, and there is a lot of good stuff, okay, but we can't just rest on Tolkien forever, and I mean, yeah, Tolkien's great, but but at some point you've already read Lord of the Rings, so we need to actually start writing for ourselves stories for our generation and for all generations, because that's the thing, as conservatives, we can't just be short-sighted and think about the current generation. We should be thinking about future generations. And we need to start writing uh stories. I have several ideas for different kinds of stories in my head, and all of them have a moralistic component to them. And the thing is, we shouldn't be writing stories that necessarily beat down this moral, you know, but the moral should still be there. And I just need to sit down, take some time out of my day, and start writing these things. I like to say, well, I'm busy with college, and that's true. I like to say I'm busy with work, and that's true. But at the same time, if I find myself having 10 minutes to watch YouTube, that's 10 minutes I could be writing an outline. So that's the yeah, that's the thing. Uh
Yeah, and well, when it comes to movies, well, actually, TV is the one I wanted to touch on. Just the woke kind of leanings that people tend to do, it really causes issues with kind of how, I mean, like Kaiser Bob was talking about with how certain series are seen. And one of the greatest examples of this is the new show Velma, which I'm sure everyone here has already sighed or groaned to themselves after I said that name, but
Best part of that
the
series was when she got hit by a car.
I don't disagree with you, but we can't say that on YouTube.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, Charles, you'll
the
have to cut it out.
anyway, so the
I
thing
won't have to cut it out. I mean,
oh,
it's true.
very fun. No, no, he's right. But basically, that show kept none of the character traits of any of the characters, like going in order. Fred, instead of being kind of the goofy little, guy that he is, who just like knows about traps or plans or whatever, he's just some rich white guy that Velma doesn't like. Daphne is suddenly Asian and also doesn't care about popularity really anymore, which is kind of her thing. And being with Fred, she doesn't want to do that, which was her whole character. Velma herself, we'll get to her. Shaggy is in the regular shows portrayed as someone who loves to eat, someone who is a scaredy cat and has no confidence. In the show, he's extremely confident. He doesn't eat very much, and he then goes on dates with the probably worst character in the show, Scooby, who is no longer a dog, but
Massacre
actually
my boy.
some some girl who's a news reporter, or not a news reporter, she's just like a journalist or something, but like, why? And then Velma. Here's the thing. So the show was made and Velma was voiced by and written by Mindy Kaling, of Office fame and absolutely nothing else. And I believe that the show is not actually meant to do anything about Scooby Doo or about actual politics. It's a self insert for Mindy Kaling. And here's why: because she's always the right one, who's always correct, who's always going against, the evil rich white people. And the evil rich white people are all stupid and incompetent, but somehow are always rich and white and always have power over the minorities. And then the other thing is every single character in the show from the originals is in love with Velma. Fred starts his whole fight with her because she refuses to go out with him. Then there's a scene later where Velma's making out with Daphne, and then Shaggy gets turned down when he asks Velma out. Like, it's almost as if it, like I said, it's Mindy Kaling's self-insert of everyone loves me, I'm always right, everyone else is always wrong and stupid, but I'm also being oppressed. And you know what? No one liked that show. It is currently the worst rated show on Rotten Tomatoes because no one likes it.
And
Honestly,
how
okay.
does one survive for so long for not having done anything in so many years after the office?
I don't know.
I mean,
She played the
maybe
race
maybe
card, I'm
she
guessing.
maybe she's gearing up. Oh, sorry, Kaiser.
Yeah, sorry I interrupted you, Charles. I just made a joke that said, well, she played the race card again, so.
Yeah, she too played the race card. If you don't like my show, then you're a racist and a sexist and a homophobe. Like,
But, like, she had a list prepared and was just going through it line by line. You're a racist, you're a
well,
homophobe, you're a transphobe, you're a...
and might I mention, she was doing an interview, and she basically, this interview, it was talking about the production of the show and like the people she had around. She was talking about how she basically had come on to one of her like secretaries or what, like some dude, right? She basically was like hitting on him and coming on to him and trying to, get with him. And then she ended up forcibly like kissing him, and then he said he didn't like that and that he would report her. And she said on the interview that she said to this guy, well, if you do that, you're fired. And everyone just laughed and, went along with it. Like, how is that allowed at all? How are there not people rioting in the streets about that?
Because it is the girl coming on to the guy. Now, if the guy came on to the girl and the girl refused, there would be rioting in the streets and calls for jail and immediate dismissal, etc., etc.
Yeah,
It's I know. I mean, it's the fact remains is that I don't think anyone actually on the left at any rate cares about double standards, and we should kind of just stop talking about it as like, oh, but if it was a guy, we should just be focusing on the fact that it is objectively not cool to do something like that. Like the I mean, like, did she give any other? I mean, like, okay, even assuming that the guy is like single, you don't do that. There is no justification for just walking up to some guy and and like kissing him. It's not like you two. It's not like they were running away from the Terminator, and over the course of their relationship, they grew to have an attraction with each other, and they both knew that, and so they kissed or anything like that. I mean, it's your secretary. Like, I mean, firstly, reinstating males in the secretary rule before women stole it, that's kind of based. But but it's just it's absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible.
truly, it's honestly just it, it makes me so sad to see that the world is in this kind of state, especially Hollywood, because I mean, old school Hollywood used to be amazing. Like when you were talking about the Hays Code, like it was, yeah, Hollywood was amazing back then, and great movies came out of there. Like the best, I don't think that there's a single movie, Passion of the Christ, that came out post 2000, And I also believe that the best movies came out between 1960 and 1990. And I think the best movie ever, and yeah, call me basic, is The Godfather. Great movie.
Yeah, I mean, well, here's the thing. Hollywood, the only thing really wrong with Hollywood pre the fall of the Hays Code was every time it tried to be explicitly religious, it was kind of dumb. I mean, because Hollywood had this very brotherhood of man mentality, but other than that, and movies like when Bing Crosby was a Catholic priest, and what was that movie where he was a singing priest?
I don't know.
I don't know. Well, you have Bing Crosby, and he's a priest, right? But where's the scene of him celebrating mass or
Hmm.
administering any
Mm,
sacrament whatsoever? I mean, it's
And again, that would be
Which brings me to I will say there's one good movie produced after the year 2000, and it is Velocipaster. That
Oh,
is the best movie to grace
Yeah.
the earth. I will never get over how amazingly horrible that movie is.
yeah. It is kind of sad when the best movies made are the worst.
I
I mean,
immediately recommend everyone listening to this, as soon as they're finished, go watch Velocipaster.
I just uh, it's something. I mean, movies that are made 10 years ago are completely forgettable. Like what is a blockbuster from 2013 that you remember?
Iron Man?
That was 2013?
I don't know. I think that was 2009, actually.
Yeah, because the MCU was 10 years old when
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
okay, so Dad and I were bored, and for some reason we decided to binge the MCU over the course of a couple of months. And then I mean it was all right. I mean, I did like the end of the first Iron Man movie, but it's all fading from my mind.
I think
It
Marvel
doesn't have
movies
any staying
declined.
power in my mind.
The Marvel movies in the MCU declined in quality. Basically, there's only one series of movies that I will continually watch when it comes to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that's Ant-Man, because Ant-Man is completely different. I love those movies, but like the rest of the
The
MCU
new
is just
one?
corny. I've not seen the new one. I want
It's
to.
bad, man.
Is it-
It's bad.
It's
Well,
Batman.
It's it's
shush.
um
Well, they tried to put MODOK in live action, so I don't know how that worked out. I need to go see that, but
wasn't
let
good.
us not spoil the movie for our
I
friends.
won't spoil it, but I'm just gonna say my honest opinion. The worst is yet to come, and this is the first warning signs.
Honestly, large blockbuster movie franchises like that never tend to be good. It's usually the one-off high production, not even high production value, just high quality movies that come out once every 5 years. I think there's one good movie like Passion, like Dunkirk,
there's a movie, a French movie that was produced by a very, very small movie production company. This was
Mhm.
their first attempt at a movie. And it's about the Vendée. It
Mm.
came out in December.
Ooh, what's it called?
I don't know.
Oh,
It's in
because
French.
the
It's in
story of
it's it, but
Monday.
it's in French. And
I
because
don't
this
mind.
movie studio was so small, they're bankrupt
Oof.
because the critics trashed the movie. The
That doesn't
people loved
surprise
the
me.
people
Usually,
loved the movie, but the professional critics trashed it.
usually when it comes to how movies are rated, here's a great way to tell if you're going to be seeing a good movie or a bad movie. So usually movie scores like on Rotten Tomatoes will come out a week after the movie's released. I'd suggest waiting until a week to look at those scores, because if it's a high critic rating, like great critic rating, and low audience rating, it's a horrible movie. Examples: The Emoji Movie, Cuties, that horrible French movie. That's the one you were referring to. Cuties is the French movie. Those are examples of horrible movies that had high critic scores, and it tends to be that way. Meanwhile, movies that have
I was referring to the exact opposite.
no, I know.
Right.
Referring, and then if it has a low critic score and a high audience score, then you're gonna love it. Examples of movies with low critic score, high audience score include, well, this was back in the '80s, so it was a different rating system, but The Godfather. In more modern times, The Passion. In I'm trying to think of a recent one that came out. There was one off the top of my head.
While you
Joker.
think of that,
Cocaine Bear.
let me think. While you think about that, how in the world can you rate the true or as true as possible retelling of the Passion of our Lord Jesus Christ?
Here's the thing. I did like The Passion, but I don't think that as a rule we should do any sort of adaptation of the Bible simply because when you're transferring something that's on paper to a visual medium, there's a lot of questions that you have to answer, like, who was in the background, what were the facial expressions of people, of the various historical figures, and all that you're bound to get something wrong, and you're always going to leave people with the wrong impersonation. Like, The Passion does a very good job, but there's always going to be something that's going to give people the wrong
True.
impersonation. So I don't think
Impression.
so I'm just saying that if I was in charge of Hollywood, the entirely monolithic structure of Hollywood, there's just one corporation, Hollywood Ltd.
Hollywood Inc.
If I was in charge of Hollywood Incorporated, we scare because we care. Then I wouldn't greenlight any movies that are from the Bible. Now, I would the religious movies would all be about, would be about other extra biblical historical events, like the stories of the saints, or a story about the war in the Vendée, um, Death to the Republic.
Mhm.
But the but I wouldn't do anything with the Bible itself, just because it's so easy to get something wrong, even unintentionally, that will give someone the wrong impersonation. So I just you don't I wouldn't touch it.
I actually agree with you, and I think that there is a great. This is a good segue into an idea that I have when it comes to film about how film should be done regarding certain things. So, on religion in movies, I think that so as a general rule, Christian movies suck.
Yeah.
They're horrible.
Yeah.
Movies that feature Christianity tend to be good. Movies about wars, or sorry, movies like directly made to talk about a war aren't great. Movies set in wars are good. The difference is how you use the setting. For example, if you have a movie that you're making, let's say on the Christian note, that is directly supposed to be a Christian movie. Example I will use: God's Not Dead, everyone's favorite.
Oh boy.
Oh my, I remember that movie, and you just
I,
gave
I
me you gave me nightmares.
That movie was a self-proclaimed Christian movie with a Christian band. The whole point of it is promoting Christianity,
and
and it was
they had
horrible. It was
that one guy from
it
Duck Dynasty. He
had
was
all of
in
Duck
it.
Dynasty. It
Honestly,
was not a good movie.
I half
I mean,
expected it to be sponsored by Duck Dynasty, and at the end they all played
they
the
played the
song
God's Not Dead song.
with the duck
God's
voice.
not dead, he's surely alive. No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to start that.
Uh,
Um, We will not.
Please
We will not.
don't.
We will not. We will not sing that song.
Yeah,
That song
that
is
is
horrible.
Protestant
My
propaganda.
father, my father actually, you know how they told people to text everybody saying
Oh
God's not dead?
my family
My
did that.
father did that to me.
My family did that too. It was
Ugh.
so unfortunate, and that's why I don't think that Christian movies are good, because the point is spreading Christianity, not making a good movie. Now if you use something that you want to make a movie about and then put an actual story in it that is not about the thing you're doing. Example I will use is a Spanish film, Mientras dure la guerra, or in English, While at War. The movie, at its core, the director wanted to make a movie about the Spanish Civil War. But if you made a movie about the Spanish Civil War, it would not be a good movie. He made a good, compelling story with characters whose views shift and how they have to kind of
Krieger, can you mute your
work in
mic?
the changing world around them, and how they have to work in the changing kind of world around them. Like, it's actually like the character. So in Mientras dure la guerra, there is a character who is basically, he is a professor, and in the Spanish Republic, the leaders of the Spanish Republic actually fire him from his job as a professor. And then, so when the nationalist coup happens in Spain, he supports the nationalists, and he very much loves it. And they reinstate him. He gets to meet Franco. He gets to meet all these important people. And he's very pro-nationalistic. And then the nationalists start committing war crimes and like kidnapping his friends and disappearing them. And at that point, he is conflicted, and he has to one of his friends who he'd had an argument with the next day is gone, and he doesn't know if he should be happy or sad about it. And then he eventually realizes that, in at least the way he sees it, neither side is good. And it's genuinely a great movie because it tells a compelling story, and it's set during the Spanish Civil War. That's what makes it such a masterpiece. And so it's important that a movie be first and foremost a story, and then later is the setting and put in.
Yes, and I think you bring up a great point about that. And if you want to, like, I think there's a Padre Pio movie starring Shia LaBeouf.
Oh, that one.
Running from Your Life, it's Shia LaBeouf.
I mean, that movie got him to convert to Catholicism, so I think it was an overall net positive.
Yeah, I'm a bit conflicted about that movie because, for one thing, the guy who made it made porn, and from the one clip that everyone saw that was a meme, showed Pio telling a telling some random person to shut the f up. So, and that wasn't
It
something
was
Padre Pio would have.
no, it's not. But I will say it did spawn one of the better memes of
Oh
all
yeah, it
time,
did,
which
and it
I'm
was
pretty
funny.
sure I'm pretty sure Chuck has the exact same kind of belief. The meme I have on my phone still it's literally me before I let anyone inside of my house. Say Christ is Lord. Say Christ is Lord.
Yes,
It's great.
yeah, I haven't seen the movie. There's a lot of movies I would like to see but haven't, but so I'll withhold judgment on its quality as a movie. But Shia LaBeouf converts to Catholicism, and he likes the Latin Mass. I mean, I mean, it's quite the thing.
So even if it wasn't a good movie, it did bring Shia LaBeouf to Catholicism. So net positive, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
And let's talk about for a little bit. They just made a Padre Pio movie. Um, what saints can we make movies out of?
definitely make one about Saint Joan of Arc because that'd be a
Well, of course.
because obviously, but
Like,
then again, there's been
Honestly,
several movies about her
uh,
already. But a good
yeah,
good
like,
movie of Joan of Arc would be nice. Um, I would love to see a movie. Uh, I'm trying to think. Come back to me later. Krieger, you were trying to go.
there's a lot of potential in like scenes from the Cristero War in Mexico.
I was
I
Oh
about
can't
to
I
yeah,
say
can't
that.
I can't name one off the top of my
I
head
can. I can.
because
There was actually a
He
movie.
he had
is.
it.
He is. There is one. There is one. It
There is
was.
one, but like,
Yes, yes. There's a movie about Saint Jose Sanchez del Rio, who was a little boy who fought for the Cristeros against the secularist Mexican government, and they tortured him and then
yeah,
killed him because he refused to damn Christ's name, and he continued to say Christ is king, and so they killed him. They made a movie about him. Another great couple of saints you could do movies on. Saint George,
yeah.
obviously. Another one that people probably don't consider, Saint Augustine of Hippo, right? Starting your life as a depraved sinner who does nothing but pleasure, like does nothing but for pleasure and for immediate release, and then turns to God, becomes extremely spiritual, theological, like very um, devoted to Christ. That would be a great movie, and I think there are two more saints that I would mention. Firstly, uh, Pope Saint Leo X, who, or not Leo X. Well, you could do Leo X, but Leo the Great, the first Leo, he was the one who convinced Attila the Hun not to destroy Rome. And you could also do Saint Ambrose of Milan, who, and I think this could be a bigger story than just Saint Ambrose, but for those of you who don't know, Saint Ambrose of Milan was the bishop of Milan during the reign of the Emperor Theodosius, who was the emperor that made Christianity the official religion of Rome. And no, Constantine didn't do that, actually. He just made it legal. But Theodosius made it the official religion. And Theodosius, in his rage, had ordered a massacre in Thessalonica because they had risen up in revolt against him. And because of this, openly, St. Ambrose physically refused Theodosius entry to his church to receive the Eucharist because he had ordered this massacre, and which was like at that time in Roman history suicidal. But Theodosius begged for whatever he could do to receive the Eucharist, and so he had to do months of public penance and attending mass. And eventually, on Christmas, he was allowed the Eucharist once more. And I think that whole situation could absolutely be made into an amazing movie.
Hmm,
Yeah. Uh,
That's
It,
oh, and
uh,
we lost Krieger.
Krieger, unfortunately.
I was going to say,
yes, we did lose Krieger, but, uh, some movies. I can think of a few, more than a few, actually. Mother Seton, Mother Teresa, uh, Saint Kateri, Saint George. You can make a whole movie about the martyrs of England and Ireland. You can make a whole movie about, well, the early Christian persecutions by the different pagan Roman emperors. You can make movies about, well, St. Teresa of Avila. I think that would be a little compelling.
Absolutely.
There are so many stories that could be told on the silver screen. Instead, we get teenage romance drama number 5200.
Yeah.
It was so much better than
Yeah.
5,197.
I know, right?
I know.
Well, no, I mean, here's
They did
actually
tie
what
up
I
the
would like.
unrelated plot interests, though. So
Yeah. Well, actually, here's what I would like to see. Not because I mean, I would rather see a movie about the lives of the saints than trying to do the Bible for the reasons I said before. Unless, of course, they're biblical saints, but the ones who, like Moses. But no, I mean, I think an interesting concept. So we have the 40 martyrs of England and Wales. The Catholic martyrs who were killed, and the Scottish
Yes, yes, we
martyrs
know.
would have been their own thing because even today the church treats England and Wales as separate from Scotland, which is a Jacobite, I must say, is very based. But, um, but I would like to see a movie about uh, Catholics in England. Um, at that time, and they would be the main characters would be fictional characters, but they would interact maybe with the saints, and of course maybe they would be witness to one of the saints executions, because there are a lot of because the executions, the final death of and martyrdom of a lot of these people was probably some of the most inspiring stuff of each one's life. um you know like there was a group of monks who Henry VIII had drowned in the river, and and I guess the leader of the monks said, well, the road to heaven is just as fast by water as it is by land, so what does it matter matter how you kill us, or something to that effect. So a movie like that, maybe set in Elizabethan times, I think would be really great, because since they're going to be fictional characters, you're going to you have a lot of freedom with the story about the characters you're writing about, but it's still grounded in reality, and the actions of the saints are all going to be real, who are being portrayed. And then also I realized that I would never accept a casting call to play a saint, because it's like, yeah, I'm too sinful for that. But um yeah, so that's what I would like to
Charles
see.
Shia LaBeouf played Padre Pio.
that's
Yeah, but
true.
that
That's
doesn't.
true. Shia LaBeouf isn't exactly the greatest actor of all time,
Yeah.
but
And Matthew McConaughey played, what was it, Father Stew?
No, that was
oh yeah, Father. No, no, no. That was Mark. That
Mark
was
Wahlberg.
Mark Wahlberg.
Oh,
Yep,
that was Mark
Yeah.
Wahlberg. Okay.
who
Yeah.
is a
Well,
Catholic, by the way.
Yeah. Ace Mark
Yes.
Wahlberg.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, honestly, playing a saint, I mean, obviously the saints were sinful in life, except the Blessed Virgin, obviously, and the angels. Um, but I don't know. I mean, especially with martyrs, because it's like, if I was ever put in that situation, I hope I would do the right thing and be like, oh, you want me to prolong my life on Earth for like 5 years or whatever? Yeah, no. Uh, but there's always that fear that you would be a coward in the end, and I don't, so yeah, I don't know. Martyrs are a great example, and you should ask them to pray for you, especially, I guess, if you're about to get martyred potentially. Um,
On the
yeah.
topic of English Catholic martyrs, Saint Guy Fawkes when?
I mean, actually, that's the thing, though. I don't know if it'd be possible really to canonize him, because we don't. I don't. Do we ever figure out his identity? Because that wasn't his actual name, was it?
Guido something. No, Guido was his code name. His name was Guy Fawkes.
Oh, okay. That's actually kind of a
Yeah,
cool name, really, though.
it is. Yeah, no, being called Guy, like that's a great name.
He
Yeah,
was
no,
our guy, you
he
know.
was our guy. Yeah, no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no. Apparently though, that's how "guy" kind of entered like the English language, as like the slang term, because originally it was derogatory, because you're like, oh, you guys, but then it just kind of became a general like, hey guys,
Oh,
what's up?
you
We
guys.
are we are we are veering a bit into the Culloden special.
Yeah,
Well, that's. I mean, the
save
plot to
that for
blow up.
another
I mean,
time.
the plot to blow up Parliament.
All right.
The
I mean,
So
I will
gunpowder,
say,
treason, and
Guy,
plot.
with the exception of Charles the First, Guy Fawkes was the last man to enter Parliament with honest intentions. I will say that.
Accurate.
I mean, I mean, certainly the last non monarch, but because I guess there's also Charles II and James II. But uh, no, I mean, that's one of the great what ifs of history. Partly because I mean, the whole conspiracy was so secretive. You know, I mean, it's like what because we don't even know if they really had a plan. Like, it literally, as far as we're aware, it was the meme. You know, step one, blow up Parliament. Step two, question mark. Step three, profit. Like we don't. Like, I mean, I would hope that they actually had a plan for what they were for what the because there was like what 40 of them.
Mhm.
What they were gonna do after they blew up Parliament. Like, what
If
were they
I'm
gonna do?
not
Like,
if I'm not incorrect, you may cite me here, but I believe they were going to instate the Catholic niece or nephew of James the First.
okay, I hadn't heard that. I mean,
That was what I remember. I might be wrong. Someone fact check me and make me look dumb.
I mean, I mean, but here's the thing though. Charles the First was only like was actually a little would have been a little kid at the time, so it would have been easy to just be like, okay, we're gonna. Although Charles the First wasn't actually going to be the king. His older brother died, which is why Charles the First was,
Yes.
which was why Charles the First was a lot more Catholic because his mother was Catholic, and since he wasn't supposed to inherit the crown anyways, no one really cared that he took more to his mother in terms of religion than he did his dad. So, yeah. Um,
yeah,
and then that, of course, leads into the whole controversy of whether or not it's okay to venerate Charles the First as a saint. And I'm going to be like, I'll wait till the church issues an official declaration on that because I don't necessarily see the evidence of him being like, yeah, I'm Catholic now, as much as some other people do. But I mean, I do respect. But of all the Protestant monarchs of England, he's my favorite. I will
yeah.
say that.
Yeah.
And we and let's get back to actually going back to movies. I think there was a movie made about King Charles I, wasn't there?
Um,
I'm not
yeah.
sure.
That I mean, I think it may have been about the English Civil War in general. I haven't watched it, but I know there's scenes of Charles the First movies that YouTube recommends me, and it's like, but my copyright, so you can't do that.
Yes. If I were to make a movie on the English Civil War, it would be Cromwell. Why we need to go back in time and
Yeah.
stop him.
All right, boys. We're going on a road trip. We're going to take down Oliver Cromwell.
Get into
Yeah.
your DeLorean. Get the DeLorean ready, Marty.
Yeah,
No. Shooting Hitler, please. I'm gonna go shoot Cromwell.
Yeah.
yeah. No, I mean it's
uh,
Cromwell, my boy. What are you? I mean, firstly, he wasn't the real tragedy of Cromwell was is like he started off life as like I guess I mean, probably just a low church, but Anglican, and then he became a Puritan. It's like,
Like, why'd you do
Yeah.
that?
why would you do that? That's like they're just it's like top 10 questions science can't
Yeah.
answer. I
The
mean,
one,
there's
the one,
Just saying.
the one good thing
Go ahead.
about Oliver Cromwell was that it made for a good prank whenever you visit Ireland. You go up to some random guy and you go, "Could you tell me where Cromwell Street is?"
uh, yeah, no, I mean the one good thing about Oliver Cromwell is that he can is that if there is any force in
Love
the
it.
universe. Well, not in the okay. That sounds too okay. That's too broad. Okay, if there's any man-made force that can unite Irish Republicans and British monarchists, it is him.
Yeah.
That is the only thing that the Good Friday agreement probably should have been. We all agree Cromwell was dumb. Accord. Like that
Yeah.
should have been the
No.
official name of the treaty.
Yeah, they honestly probably would have agreed on that. It might have brought an end to the troubles, but I guess we'll never know. Though I will say, I think that historically Cromwell was a massive loss, a massive L for my Zoomers. And I'll tell you why. Because do you know? So, what name is commonly associated with sports teams and being kind of a awesome? I'm trying to think of a term that I can use that won't get censored by the censorship regime. That'll make you look just like awesome, right? Like you don't call yourself Roundheads, right? There's no sports team named Roundheads. You find me
But
one and make me look
Cavaliers.
dumb. But Cavaliers, everyone wants to be a Cavalier. We love the Cavaliers.
I love the term cavalier. I mean,
It's
I
such
mean,
a good term.
Yeah.
I hate how
There's
people are
other
like,
there's other terms like knights, kings,
But Cavalier.
monarchs, cavalier.
now
I don't
Cava.
believe there is a sports team called the Republican.
Maybe in Texas. No, but no, but will Cavaliers will please combine with the fa la 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 la. I mean, it's just oh yeah.
Alright, I'm
I mean,
back.
it's like you. I mean, the whole concept. It is just so great. And if I lived that during that time, I wish I would have had the courage to be, to be one of them. Just people who know what's right. Like, why would I? Why am I going to? I'm not going to listen to these people in Parliament, king and country, death and glory, and all that. I mean, that whole I mean, really in a lot of ways, it feels like sort of this last grasp of Catholic England. And you'll
Mhm.
notice for any Catholics who might not like the British monarchy, all the areas that were loyal to the church during the time of Henry VIII, that's where the bulk of royalist support came from during the English Civil War. And name one prominent Catholic
Well,
Roundhead. I'll wait.
reminder that the reason that the English Civil War was started in the first place was because they thought Charles the First was too much of a papist, as they said. And I'm just saying, what style would you rather run with? Would you rather run with the foot soldier with pike, dumb helmet, dumb armor, round head, or with the floppy feathered hat, flowy um, pantaloons, the beautiful rapier? Like, I'd rather be a cavalier. They look great.
And
Yeah,
they
I
had
mean
a
it's
very good cause to fight for. So,
Yes,
oh yeah.
sir.
I mean I mean, firstly, the guy they were fighting for just had all the cool quotes. I mean, what's the one Oliver Cromwell quote everyone knows? A cruel necessity. Like you were cheering when when your king was beheaded. Okay, but all these cool Charles the First quotes, like a subject and a sovereign are clean different things, and all of that. I mean, it's and all these I mean, oh, be your majesty persuaded as I am. And like I will say this, like Charles the First attitude towards the Catholic Church was about as based as it could have been without him actually de facto
Being a
saying I'm going
Catholic.
to swim the
Yeah.
Tiber. I mean, it's
If
Right.
he would have been Catholic, it would have
I
been
think
so much
we
better.
are I think we are running a bit. I think we are just about, you know, like I think I'm petered out. I think I'm petered out a little bit here. Do we want to talk about the January 6th tape thing
I mean,
or
I
are we
still
going
like to
to
talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you have stuff to talk about, go ahead. Maybe it'll spark some more
Yeah,
talking.
yeah. So, as we all remember, on January 6th, 2021, the Capitol building was stormed by a bunch of protesters, which the media called insurrectionists. But as I would like to counter, if they were insurrectionists, don't you think they would have brought, I don't know, guns? But yeah, no. So they set up a whole commission. They impeached President Trump a second time, and they had this whole commission, and they ended up having to end it because midterm election had ended, and the House was won over by Republican control, and the Twitter account for the commission promised to release all the tapes. they never did. The last tweet was in December, and it has been inactive since. As of this week, I believe Monday or Tuesday, Speaker McCarthy has given all the tapes to Tucker Carlson of Fox News, in which he met in the first night of the airing of the tapes, which I presume is going to be a new series like the Twitter files were. But in the tapes, it has pretty much derailed the entirety of the commission's goals. Uh, so I will discuss the tapes that were shown. First things first, was Ray Epps. If that name is not familiar with you, he is a participant of January 6th and an accused federal agent, because he responded on the night of the 5th, telling Trump protesters that they needed to storm the Capitol, to which everyone in the crowd responded, heck no, Fed. And he showed up on the afternoon of the 6th and went up to a guy, whispered in his ear, and the guy proceeds to take away the fence. Now, in Ebb's testimony, he said he texted his nephew saying that he tricked those lunatics, and when he left. But the tapes showed that he was present at the Capitol an hour and a half after he said the alleged time he left. So he lied under oath. There was another tape which showed a representative from Georgia who was alleged to have orchestrated a espionage meeting for the protesters to show him around. Well, the tape showed that he was just leading a tour for Georgia residents to meet their congressional representatives. Second tape was the Brian Sicknick, which was the officer who was alleged to have been murdered by protesters during the event, but was later found out that he had a stroke. And the tape showed that he was walking around a whole hour after the alleged time he had already died. So, no, he was not killed by protesters. He was still active, and he ended up dying from a stroke. Now, the one tape that ended up being the highlight of the night was the tape of the QAnon shaman, who was basically looks like a dollar store general version of a Norse pagan, and showed him being escorted around by Capitol police officers around the Capitol building. Two armed police officers on both sides of him don't apprehend him, take him around the building, and they come up to this point where there's a whole group of cops there, like probably 9 to 10 of them, and they walk right past him, and not a single one grabs him. They take him to the Senate, uh, the Senate building, and one of them tries to open the door, but it was locked. So they pretty much took him to the House floor, where he made a prayer and said, "Thank you, God, for the bravery of these officers." And so after these tapes were released, every single Democrat influencer on Twitter, YouTube, and the White House, and various members of Congress have called out Tucker Carlson for, quote, lies and misinformation, when even though he pretty much showed the tapes in their entirety for certain aspects of it. There's still 14,000 clips from the tapes, but what these tapes show was that one, the commission, it was a sham. It pretty much misrepresented and downright refused to acknowledge uh, the facts because it derailed their narrative that President Trump orchestrated a attempt to derail their to overthrow the democracy, and two, the government was lying about it and they knew about it the whole time. So yet again to show, yet again to add to the list of many things to uh, that the government has lied to us about, the Gen 6 Commission was is a complete and utter lie. So that's pretty much it.
Thank you for the report, Kaiser Bob. I don't really have a lot to add to that sort of discussion because I just when like nothing shocks me. Nothing shocks me anymore. I'm like nothing
Yeah.
shocks me. I just I don't think there's much to add to that to make it a real point of discussion. I mean, I invite my fellow panelists to
Yeah, I was
try.
kind of hoping we talked about it first and then ended with the art discussion because I wanted to just get it out of the way before getting into in depth with the art. But well, here we are. So
All right, does anyone want to opine on this subject or should we just end it
I've got
here?
nothing to add.
Why call it 1-6? We can call it 6-1.
Okay.
alright.
I suppose that means no one has anything to say, Sir Charles.
All right. As I make my advocacy for the British, and I mean, I guess the rest of the world way of dating, because I like order. I will have order. I will have perfection.
And then
Okay. Okay.
and
Anyways.
you should probably stop there before some dragon pops through a window and eats you right there.
Well,
I
I
want correct.
I mean, hey, St. George is my okay, but in all seriousness though, St. George is my patron saint, so hypothetically I should have less reason to fear dragons than most normal people. But also, dragons not cool people. A lot of modern stuff likes to say dragons are cool and
Charles.
Charles?
stuff. Not okay. Anyways, you can't tell me what to do. Anyways, um, I mean, I guess you're the vice chancellor, but
Whatever, just
whatever.
end it.
Anyways, okay. If yeah, I will. I want to go to bed too. But if you would like to join us live on Monarchist Minute, then you can join us by clicking by joining us on our Discord
In the
link
description
in the
below.
description below. If you would like to see us on Lagab, then you can see us on a very inactive Lagab
In the
link
description
in the
below.
description below. If you would like to see us on the Twitter, where I made my second tweet in my lifetime, yay! Then you can see us on Le Twitter,
In the
link
Link
description
in
in
the
the
below.
description
description
below.
below. If you would like to see a bunch of other random stuff that you probably don't want to see, but I still mention it, then you can do it by clicking on the
Link in the
links in
description
the
below.
description below. All
All
right, and
right.
now we will conclude in prayer. And since it's Lent, we're going to be doing more prayer than normal because based. Okay. Well, okay. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost, amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Ghost, as it was in the beginning, it is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen. So, until next week, may God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.